this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden. Killer Bee is still trapped within the infinite Tsukiyomi dream world, but that's not going to stop him from having an epic adventure where he teams up with all of the Jinchuriki and forms the Jinchuriki Fighting Force. If not for the bad animation and artwork, this could very well have been one of the greatest filler episodes of all time. And without a doubt, the reason I really liked this episode a lot is that it actually paid homage to Naruto manga chapter 567, which opened up with this big color page with all of the Jinchuriki standing side by side with these badass ninja uniforms on top of a castle. It actually takes place in this week's episode because all of the Jinchuriki have come together to fight against the Akatsuki and to save this lone princess who is never seen. This week's episode was action-packed, goofy as hell, and also featured one of the coolest team-ups that I've ever seen from the entire series. I remember distinctly even saying when we were reviewing Naruto manga chapter 567 that if they ever did a filler episode or a movie or a spin-off, I want it to be all about the Jinchuriki teaming up with these costumes. Despite how ridiculous and crazy this episode was, it was also very simple. It was all about Killer Bee and his Jinchuriki group joining together so that they can fight against the Akatsuki and save this princess. But getting there is going to be one hell of a journey. The episode actually opens up with Killer Bee and Gaara and Naruto who are still fighting against Itachi, Deidara, and Sasori. What I think is really funny about the beginning of this battle is that Itachi just out of nowhere turns into a murder of crows and just flies away. And he's like, I'm leaving the Akatsuki with Nagato. And that's the end of Itachi's story in Killer Bee Shippuden. Killer Bee and Naruto make short work of Deidara and Sasori, and things get even worse for them when Fu just shows up out of nowhere. The confrontation between Fu and Killer Bee is really funny, and it's a running gag that we see throughout the rest of the episode, where whenever he runs into other Jinchuriki, they always just see Killer Bee as shady. And Naruto claims it's because of his facial hair and his sunglasses. I'm just saying that some of these Jinchuriki might be a little racist. Of course, I'm joking about this aspect, but it does lead to a very funny scene where Fu is swayed by Gaara. She seems to fall right for him. And of course, right after that, we get to see some more of the Jinchuriki. We get to see Han, who's always been my personal favorite member of the group, mostly for his character design, which I still continue to think is one of the most badass-looking characters in the entire Naruto series. And he's also a man of very few words, and his interactions with Killer Bee and Yagra in this episode were a lot of fun. I especially loved how at the very end of the episode, when he finally starts to go on the rampage, he literally runs around like a steaming train, and you even hear the sound effect of a train going off. He just completely destroys this massive Zetsu army by literally running a train over them. We also get to see the return of Yagra, the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails, as well as the Mizukage of the Hidden Mist Village. He has a small confrontation with Killer Bee, where Killer Bee literally has to convince him that they're friends, not foe, and he even has to take a blow from one of his weird, giant, hooked attacks in order to actually convince him. Probably one of the funniest scenes from this episode involved the character of Roshi, the Jinchuriki of Son Goku, the four-tailed giant Saiyan beast monkey thing. What's really great about this scene is that we get to see a lot of characters just show up out of nowhere. Sasuke, Orochimaru, Kabuto, and just like Itachi, Sasuke just decides to immediately get out of the scene and go after his brother. And this all leads to this very small battle, if you even want to call it that, where Orochimaru and Kabuto summon this giant snake, and they're going to fight against all of the Jinchuriki. And basically what happens is, all of the Jinchuriki in their little chibi-eyes forms transform for a second and just punch the giant snake, and it continuously starts to get its head knocked around, and it's basically like almost a Looney Tunes cartoon scene, because eventually they're all defeated, just like that, and both Kabuto and Orochimaru shed their skins and show their real forms, and it's really weird seeing both of them hang out in their weird, creepy snake forms together, but just like Itachi and Sasuke, they decide to get the hell out of Dodge. The final part of the episode is definitely the reason I think to even check this one out, especially if you're a fan of the manga series, because like I said, you're going to be able to see that color page from manga chapter 567 finally come to fruition. Albeit, it is a little different than what you actually see, but I'll get to that in a second. So the whole premise at the very end of the episode is that all of the Jinchuriki have gathered, and the Akatsuki have sent Deidara, Sasori, and this giant army of Zetsu clones, as well as the Geto Mazu statue, so that they can attack this castle, destroy this princess, and theoretically obtain the power of the 10-tailed beast. This leads to this big action scene where they start trading blows with Bijou bombs. But before they get there, when all the Jinchuriki gather, they go through this cheesy Super Sentai transformation sequence where they put their fists into the air, they start glowing with power, and then suddenly arrive on top of the castle in their brand new ninja uniforms, which looks awesome. Of course, I would have liked the colors to be just a little bit brighter. Despite that, for those who actually read the manga version, you'll know exactly what's going on. Now, in the original color page, it looked like there were a lot of other just random, typical black ninja who were fighting in the background of that one color panel. That's not actually going on in this episode. They're just basically fighting against the Zetsu clones and the Geto Mazu statue. And they don't really even do anything. They allow their Bijou to do all the work for them. But since they have this brand new power, they're able to summon them. They all get together side by side and do this massive Bijou bomb attack, which just completely obliterates everything, as well as the Geto Mazu statue. And just like Orochimaru and Kabuto, Deidara and Sasori run away with their tails between their legs, ending the episode with a little bit of humor. That is until they finally cut back to Killer B, who is still stuck in the Infinite Tsukiyomi, reminding you that despite the fact that they're having a really great time in this dream world, it's not really of their own volition. They are being trapped by the power of Madara Uchiha. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden? Like I said, this is an episode that was good, but it never really lived up to its full potential. If they'd have put a lot of work into the animation and the action scenes, I honestly believe this could have been one of the greatest fillers of all time. If only for the fact that we have all of the Jinchuriki who are finally gathered together, and we get to see them interacting when they're alive. That's something that's really interesting. Honestly, like I said, if they'd have just upped the animation and artwork in those opening scenes and in that final battle, this could have been something really special. Despite that, it was still a really entertaining episode, if only getting to see all these characters together and getting to see their quirks sort of work off of each other. And of course to see them go through that transformation sequence at the end when they get their ninja costumes and they're standing on top of the castle. That still looked really freaking awesome. I love the designs of those outfits and just the attention to detail, how they're all actually standing each other in the order of the tails with 1, 2, 3 all the way leading up to 9. And even their headbands, the ones that they're wearing, actually have the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and so on. It's a really nice attention to detail, and I was really sort of hoping we get to see them more in action, and they could have done more with this. They only really had Sasori and Deidara. Where's Hidan and Kakuzu? Where are those guys? Where are the other members of the Akatsuki? They're not appearing at all. This could have been something really amazing, but it still just ended up being an average episode of Naruto Shippuden. However, it's an average episode that I think any Naruto fan should check out because it's a really nice what-if story, and if you read the manga version, you're really going to appreciate that nice little homage to that color page, and for those who just watch the anime, you're just going to get a lot of laughs out of seeing these characters in some weird situations. On the technical side of things, this week's episode looked okay. Like I said, the animation and the artwork could have looked better. There were a few shining moments, but for the most part, really nothing special or anything to write home about. I was especially disappointed when they've started to finally fight against the Zetsu army, because they all do a really big flashy attack, but it's not really animated so much as it's just a still image which is being shaked around, so I was kind of hoping they would put a little more fluidity into that. However, the look of the Zetsu army coming up over the hill looked really cool, the Geto Mazu statue was awesome, and of course the transformation sequence and the big Bijou bomb attack looked pretty awesome. So there are some pretty cool moments from this week's episode, but again, it is still basically just a painfully average episode of Naruto Shippuden, but still an entertaining one. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 3 out of 5. That's the end of the Killer Bee Shippuden. Next week, we get another Infinite Tsukiyomi story, which is going to involve the Sasuke-obsessed Karin, and I'm not really sure what they're going to do with that. Maybe it'll involve a little bit more of her backstory, how she met Sasuke during the Chunin exams. I'm not really sure, but I have a feeling it's going to end with her and Sasuke falling in love and starting a family. Remember, it is the Infinite Tsukiyomi world and anything can happen. So there it is, guys. Before you leave today, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden. What did you think about all of the Jinchuriki finally coming together, getting their own uniforms, and fighting against the Akatsuki? Do you have a favorite Jinchuriki and Bijou? Please tell me in the comment section below, and make sure to tell me what you hope to see from the rest of the Naruto Shippuden anime series. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll see all of our latest anime and manga reviews and our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.